Hi everyone, it's Gem, and welcome back to another episode of Gem's Journals in our wonderful 6th level series. Today I have two guests who I'm going to introduce to you now. Dr. Marshall Goldsmith is a top-rated executive coach and one of the world's leading business thinkers, recognised by Thinkers 50 since 2011. His best-selling book, Triggers, and What Got You Here Won't Get You There, have earned top spots on the New York Times and Wall Street Journal lists. We are also joined by Jennifer Fondrevay, who is the founder of Day One Ready, a consultancy which helps business leaders tackle the people side of merging and acquisitions, using her first-hand experience from 3 major acquisitions. Her insights on making workplace transitions smoother have been featured in Forbes, Harvard Business Review, and top industry events. Super cool. So in today's podcast, we're discussing how their incredible work reflects the 6th level engagement model, amongst other things. Enjoy. Marshall, you gave a powerful testimonial for the book, The 6th Level, and you write, "The future of leadership, incredibly researched and grounded in the real stories of successful women across industries. The 6th Level offers a new leadership model for modern business." And you too have your own book, How Women Rise.
Yes.
Why are you such a strong advocate for women leaders?
I'm a great believer because of basically Sally Helgeson. She's such an inspirational person to me. I've known her for over 25 years. I've seen all that she's done. And really, she has educated me on some of the unique challenges that women leaders have. So I would say the reason why really goes back to Sally. And the book is about 85% her and 15% me. So I do want to give credit where credit's due here.
And just backing off that question of why are you an advocate for women leaders, I'd love you to expand on that a little bit.
Well, to me, a couple of things. One, I want women and all humans to be as effective as they can to basically achieve their own goals. Two, though, Sally taught me this. Women have had some unique problems or challenges that are different. One, obviously, I'm not going to spend time on societal issues and overcoming prejudice. Others can talk about that better than I can. I want to talk about internal challenges because what Sally and I have found most useful is really dealing with the unique internal challenges faced by women based on the programming they've had. And still, sometimes the programming, unfortunately, they may be giving to themselves. So that's what this has really been interesting. Women, for example, to me, often have more guilt than men. They're too hard on themselves. They try to be perfect too much. And if you go to my LinkedIn post right now, I just made a LinkedIn post and it said, never sacrifice your career for your job. So what happens is many people today, women particularly, sacrifice their careers for their job. They get so focused on being perfect at this job that they don't invest in their long-term future because they don't have any time. They don't focus on building relationships. And they have this naive belief that my good work will speak for itself, which is basically very naive. If that were true, no company would need a marketing function. So those are just a couple of little examples of some more unique issues I found working with women leaders and women professionals.
No, thank you for sharing. That's so interesting and it's so true.
Now, let's breathe. You want some free coaching?
Yeah.
Now, this free coaching, the way this works is I give you ideas and you say, thank you. You say, I'm a Buddhist. Buddha said, only do what I teach. If it works for you, if it doesn't work for you, just don't do it. So I'm going to give you an idea and you say, thank you. Don't be such a perfectionist. 2, don't be too hard on yourself. And 3, don't say what you just said, which is basically, that's who I am. Because as long as you say it's who I am, that's who you're going to keep being. Say, that's what I used to be.
And now we've turned into a coaching session, which I
Yeah.
love. I should have expected this, so I love this.
Yeah. Yeah. How true though, you know? like everything you said, and really it's switching that mindset and being in more of a I am mindset, you know? I
Yeah,
am enough.
exactly.
I can deal with things, you know, I am a leader instead of, oh, I'd love
Yeah,
to be, but I have all this stuff.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe you used to be a perfectionist. That's okay. You don't have an incurable genetic defect that's forcing you to be a perfectionist the rest of your life.
Mm.
Ah, let it go, let it go, let it go.
Let it go. So, Jen, you're a sixth level leader, and you have a chapter in the book showing how you use the sixth level model to achieve business goals. How do you see your sixth level leadership fitting in with Marshall's teachings?
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be having this conversation with both of you.
Thank
And really, really, it's fascinating to me how much sixth level leadership aligns with Marshall's teaching. It's why I know the authors were thrilled when Marshall endorsed the sixth level book and its concepts. And for me, where both the sixth level and Marshall's teachings align with the work that I do, there's three main things that really stick out for me. One is Marshall's concept, which you talked about in your introduction, of what got you here won't get you there. I work in mergers and acquisitions, and I routinely am working with leaders to highlight that your past achievements won't mean anything moving forward. You've got to bring people with you. And you can't do that unless you're engaging them and helping them navigate this time of change. You've got to pivot as a leader. It's different tools in your toolkit. It's why, Marshall, I'm continuously recommending your book, because that's where I see so often that leaders stick when they're going through that merger and acquisition transition. The second piece that really stands out is Marshall's concept of feed forward,
Hmm.
equally part of the teachings of the sixth level. Again, it's about looking forward. So helping leaders to understand in the moment, here's what you're doing well, here's what you can be doing to move the group forward. But it's making leaders aware of the fact through the feed forward, not the feedback, that
Hmm.
this is what they need to focus on, the people piece, the mission, and helping articulate that in a way that people really understand not only what the mission is, but what their role is in it and how they can contribute. So I
Hmm.
feel fortunate that I've had both Marshall's teachings as well as the sixth level, and particularly the last area that Marshall has been so valuable for me is the 100 coaches. Just the idea of carrying people with you and building on that and sharing that knowledge. Again, it's part of what the sixth level promotes, that inclusivity, that mutuality, that ethic of care. It's been what Marshall has certainly taught, and in the sixth level, it's amplified. So those three areas really, for me, Gemma, have been so invaluable as I work with leaders in mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
that's brilliant. I mean, it's exactly what you just said, Jen. Marshall, you are known as a carry as you climb leader, which is an awesome thing to be known as because you are motivated to, grow mutually rewarding relationships, which obviously
Hmm.
has so much power. How do those principles in the sixth level define your personal career?
Well, to me, if you look at that, the things that we've been discussing, one of them is feed forward. Feed forward is really a key part of my entire career. All of my coaching is based on feed forward. Now, one clarification, I have been sometimes mistakenly accused of being anti-feedback. That is not true. My clients all get confidential feedback, and feedback is great for letting you know where you are. Feed forward is not designed to let you know where you are. Going back to your good point about mergers and acquisitions, it's where you're going. They're two different things, and they're both important, and they're both different. Feedback, you know more about finance than I do. Feedback, people get numbers. That is feedback. It's important. It's not trivial. It's not meaningless. On the other hand, you can sit there and stare at the feedback forever, and you're not going to get better because of that. Feed forward is, where do you go from there? So in terms of my career, that's been an incredibly important point. I use it in my one-on-one coaching over and over. I've done it with as many as 50,000 people at once in Russia, by the way. St. Petersburg, obviously before the war, St. Petersburg in Russia, in a football stadium with 50,000 people. Only 20% spoke English, and they loved it.
Yeah.
They just loved it because it's positive, it's upbeat, it's focused, and it again is something, it basically builds on Buddhist philosophy.
Can you tell us a bit more about the Buddhist philosophy, please?
I'm not a metaphysical or spiritual Buddhist. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just not one of them. I'm a more philosophical Buddhist. So my Buddhism is not based on, spirits and things like that. My Buddhism is based on living. And I see just an incredible philosophy of living. And, a very good question is,
You're calling Marshall bot?
I'm just checking in with a little friend here. How is your coaching impacted by Buddhist philosophy? And this is a very good question. If you give me about 1 minute. Buddhist philosophy has deeply influenced my coaching practice in several ways. Wise or Dill. It has taught me the importance of compassion. I try to approach each client with care, understanding, and a desire to relieve their suffering. My aim is to help them, not judge them. It has shaped my view that lasting change comes from within. As a coach, I can provide support and perspective, but true change ultimately happens through the client's own insight and effort. I see my role as guiding them to look within. It has instilled in me a beginner's mindset. I know I don't have all the answers. I try to approach each client without preconceived notions and with openness to their unique situation. This allows me to meet them where they are. It has shown me the power of mindfulness and presence. Being fully present with a client, listening deeply and attuning to the moment, can be transformative. I aim to be focused and attentive. It has taught me that ego is an illusion. As a coach, my aim is not to prop up my own ego, but to serve my client's growth. I try to check my own ego at the door. In essence, my Buddhist practice has cultivated qualities like compassion, humility, and mindfulness that allow me to approach coaching from a spirit of service. My intention is to meet each client where they are and support their journey, not impose my own agenda. I continue to learn and grow in integrating these values into my work. There you go.
I love how smart Marshall bot sounds. I think you've even shared he makes you feel smarter.
Look, Marshall Bot is way smarter than me. So this, by the way, all of you listening, this is my AI computer bot. Just go, it's all free, by the way. One thing I'm proud of, it's really free. It's not one of those scams that say, this is
Right.
free, but you spend $100, you get to go to the Magic Club. Spend $1,000, you get to go to the Super Club. There's none of that garbage. No, it's actually free. So just go to marshallgoldsmith.ai. I give away everything anyway. And this is free for everybody. That was not a trivial question. That's a pretty deep question. That's not, what are the 2 ways to be a better listener? That was a pretty deep question. And it could go on and on and on. For example, it didn't talk about the concept of impermanence, which to me is a key concept of Buddhism that influences everything I do. And it's a concept that is lost in the West. Have any of you, either one of you two, ever had this fantasy? When will I get my act together? Have any of you had some dream about, quote, getting your act together? I can answer that question, and the answer is never. No one ever gets their act together. That is a total myth. There is no such thing as constant stability. The only book that ends with, and they lived happily ever after, that is called a fairy tale. That's not the real world. In the real world, we start over every day. I don't have my act together. I got somebody call me on the phone to help me daily. I'm too cowardly and undisciplined to do anything I teach by myself.
It's a very freeing fact that once you realize that no one has all their eggs, we say over this side of the pond, eggs in a basket. No one does, no matter how, successful and inspirational they are. But that's what makes them inspirational, is because it's that humanity side. And I love how, you say that, Marshall and Marshall Bot.
And your point, Gemma, on how freeing that is the powerful aspect of it. It is freeing.
Yeah, because it makes you just feel more of a human, and you realize, oh, hang on a minute, I'm not working with robots, I'm working with other human beings who are just like me. And that's exactly what was illustrated in the sixth level book, how leaders were editing their leadership styles to fit in more with their employees. Small things, but are actually really big things, like the school drop off. That's quite a big thing in someone's life, and they want to have a job that can just fit around that and make it no big deal. It's not being rigid.
Well, let's build on that. That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's only a big thing if you give a shit about your kids.
Yeah.
I guess if
Yeah.
you're not,
Very true.
it's not a big thing at all.
Yeah. Quite right. Quite right.
Why wouldn't it be a big thing?
Exactly. But, in some businesses, it's made to feel like employees are made to feel a bit of an inconvenience for asking for stuff like that. I don't
Yeah.
know. Have you seen that at all, Jen, in your experience?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to go back to AI because I'm just enthralled by what we just experienced with Marshall Bot. I love it. And AI is a tool that is supporting all aspects of business now. I mean, it's incredible, really, because it's just mind blowing how intelligent it is. Can you both touch on how you think this will affect leadership models moving forward?
Well, I
Well,
can say first, just Marshall helped me with the introduction of Marshall Bot. You shared that 2 years ago, I think, Marshall, when
right.
it
We
was
were
first.
just getting started then too.
Yeah. And I remember being in the room and you saying, if you resist this, if you think this is something that's going to go away, you're doomed. You're doomed to fail. Because it's here and it's going to be a big part of how we all move forward. And I remember the power of that, just recognizing this is not a fad. This is something that's going to shape how we work in the future. So for me, that had me double down on, so AI as a tool to help reduce, and again, I look at it through an M&A standpoint, but through the data, the operational data, so that humans can show up as leaders as they need to be, because AI can't help people manage the anxiety and fear that come inevitably with the change and transition of a merger and acquisition. It's a new strategy that is inevitably being pursued when you go through a deal of that magnitude, or even a small merger or acquisition. Every form of them brings about change and uncertainty. And so for me, the reality that AI can be a tool to use as a leader
Right.
to help diminish the data churn, the analytics, the research piece of it, but that so you can show up to help your team navigate both their emotions, their feelings, the anxiety and fear, there's a huge opportunity. The one downside that I have seen is I have seen companies that are just doubling down on the data piece, using that as a way to help them lead better, looking purely for redundancies and efficiencies and not recognizing the human component of leadership, that's how people invest in the company and move forward with it. So I'm looking to role model, as Marshall has, the benefits of AI, the application of it to leadership, but continuing to focus on the human leadership tools, the development of emotional intelligence, the connection piece that's part of the 6-level principles, that ethic of care and mutuality that are so important, making sure that those rise to the top as we use AI as a tool to help us even amplify our work.
Well, to me, I'm number one, totally agree with everything you said. The one applications you talked about, I'm really not an expert at. I know what you're saying is true. I just am not an expert about how it can use to increase efficiency and all that kind of stuff. On the other hand, from a human dimension, that's what I'm doing it just as a human dimension. Here's reality. My daughter Kelly, PhD from Yale, she's an endowed chair, full professor at Vanderbilt, so daddy's very proud. She wants to trick the AI. So she says, okay, Marshall Budd, how is your coaching related to utilitarian philosophy? So I've read 400 books on Buddhism. I probably could have muddled through the Buddhist answer you just heard. I don't know anything about utilitarian philosophy. It studies utilitarian philosophy. It studies my coaching. It says, here's how it's similar, here's how it's different. It figures out exactly how I would answer the question. It answers it exactly as if it were me in 5 seconds. I can't do that. No offense to me, I'm not really that smart. So I just ask it, how is AI going to impact leaders moving forward?
L'intelligence artificielle aura un impact significatif sur les leaders à l'avenir de plusieurs manières. 1. Prise de décision améliorée.
You're
L'IA
now having fun with us. So for the French listeners, que vous avez parlé français? I love the fact that of all the languages you picked, French is the one other language I know. So Marshall sounds smart in French as well.
Well, it's what it does is it knows me, it translates it, but it sounds like me talking as if I had studied French all those years and were an articulate speaker of French, which obviously I am not, right? But it's going to speak 44 languages.
You just made me think. So Charlene Lee, who's also part of
Yes,
100
of course.
Coaches, was at an event where I was speaking at as well, a SHRM event, and she had her avatar speak in several languages, and how much that influences the impact of AI, the ability to speak in people's languages is so powerful. It truly is. I love the fact that you just gave us a flavor of Marshall in French.
Yeah. Je ne sais pas. I love that. But true leadership, as you both teach and practice, is about service and impact rather than control.
Yes.
With all the research proving 6-level principles improve the practice of leadership across the board, what do you see as the biggest hurdles leaders face embracing them to an ethic of care?
Well, it's fascinating. And again, I really I feel so fortunate that not only was I part of 6 level, being a leader, a 6-level leader and contributing to the book, but having had the privilege of being in Marshall's orbit. Because frankly, I would say my first answer to you is status quo. People feel comfortable in status quo. I'm just going to keep doing it the way I've always done it. And I still remember that meeting where Marshall said, AI is here. We have to keep moving forward. You've got to embrace this and think about how it serves your role as helping leaders move forward, doing their jobs better, doing your jobs better. And I can't believe it took that epiphany moment, because I'm constantly telling, particularly my M&A leaders, you can't cling to status quo. It is different tools in your leadership toolkit that you need to use now. You've been great. You grew this company, fantastic growth trajectory, but now you've got to pull out those tools that are around compassion and empathy and connection. You've got to carry people forward. And it's what I see. It's why there's a 70-90% failure rate in mergers and acquisition. It's been a statistic for decades.
Is that really the percentage?
It is,
Oh, yeah.
unfortunately. Price Pritchett, who's part of 100 Coaches, who has been a mentor for me, has been working in mergers and acquisitions since the 1970s.
What a wonderful person.
And even said to me, I'm glad to see we have someone to carry the torch forward. I wish things had changed more, but there's still that people feeling comfort in status quo, how they've always done it. So that is the biggest obstacle that I see, not just in my M&A work, but in general. And it's why I'm thankful to be part of the 6-level leadership, role modeling that, as well as Marshall's teachings, because we won't change, we won't move forward unless we demonstrate the value of this more ethic of care type of leadership.
That is so interesting to me that, one, that's the statistic because that's high. And two, it's because the kind of principles taught in the 6-level model are maybe not being focused on as much or seen as a priority when really it sounds like from the statistics, it's the biggest priority.
A couple of thoughts I had. One is to build on what you said. Any human or animal, we replicate behavior that's followed by positive reinforcement. The people you work with, the people I work with, they got so much positive reinforcement in their life. Everybody tells them they're wonderful, they're successful, they win. So we fall into a trap, which is exactly what you said with inertia. I behave this way, I am successful. Therefore, I am successful because I behave this way. Well, that's wrong on 2 dimensions. One dimension you just mentioned, that was yesterday. Yesterday is not tomorrow. It is not tomorrow, right? That was yesterday. May have been fine for yesterday. Yesterday is not tomorrow. The second thing is everyone I've ever coached is successful because we do many things right, and in spite of doing things that are dysfunctional. And I have never met anyone, certainly including myself, that had nothing on the in spite of list. We all got plenty of stuff on that in spite of list. Who are we kidding here? Who are we kidding? None of us are perfect. We all got stuff on the in spite of list. And then another point I'd add is this. People are busy. So one of my good friends is CEO of a bank. It's a multi-billion-dollar bank. He says to the top 10 people in the bank, 10 people, I want to spend 4 hours this week doing nothing but focusing on the long-term future of the bank. 4 hours. This is the top 10 people of a multi-billion-dollar bank. They should do this every week. At the end of the week, they were honest. I gave them credit for that. How many people did it? None. 0 for 4. You know what? They got busy. Crisis, drama, this, that, the other. People are so barraged right now. It is very, very hard to get out of that. It's so hard. We're so busy doing our, for example, at the human level. At the corporate level, I totally agree with you, Sid. Mergers, acquisitions, all of that. You can't just sit there and get today's job done and expect to get the ball over the line. It's not going to work.
Right.
At the human level, though, back to the quote from Sally Helgeson, we get so driven to do this perfect work that we forget, what am I sacrificing here?
Yes.
Sacrificing my future. How many human beings spend 4 hours a week focusing on their long-term future? Not too many. No, we spend more time planning our vacation than planning our future.
Yeah.
So I think what she's saying is very, very important, that you've got to get leaders. And again, you can't put down the past. Let me give you a good motto for this from my friend Frances Hesselbein, greatest leader I ever met in my life, Frances Hesselbein. Peter Drucker said she was the greatest executive he ever met. She's a great model, tradition with a future. I love that motto because she turned around an organization that had huge problems, but she never put down the past. You don't have to put down the past to move to the future. And too many people say, well, the past, that was no good or that's bad. You've seen this all the time. Tradition with the future is, look, the past was great. You've done a lot right. That's why you're here. That's not tomorrow.
Right. And it's interesting you frame it that way, because in the mergers and acquisitions work that I do, it's about knowing your value from those past achievements, but not clinging to them. Exactly as you said. It's recognizing the value that you delivered and the value that you can deliver tomorrow. It doesn't disappear, but you've got to, what you achieved in the past, that's the value you were recognized for. How is that going to be part of contributing to the future? So I love that point.
Marshall, I have a question just backing off this. I understand that Buddhism is about being in the moment and centered and grounded. Forgive me if I'm wrong in that.
Again, to be fair, Buddha said, basically, only do what I teach that works for you. There are so many interpretations of Buddhism that I would never say Buddhism is this or that or the other, because people have a zillion different interpretations. So I never try to prove someone else is wrong. What you're saying is an interpretation of Buddhism, which is fine.
How does that connect with the forward thinking that you're explaining here? How can it be interlinked?
Very important point. An excellent question. Two things at once. Now, he wouldn't define himself as a Buddhist, but his philosophy was Buddhist. The greatest basketball coach in the history of the United States was named John Wooden. He was a coach at UCLA. I was a student there. He never focused on winning. He never focused on winning. He focused on one thing: you do your best. The greatest recent coach is Coach K at Duke. Same thing. A player would hit a great shot. They'd do this, and go, next play. Player misses a shot. Next play. Focus on what you're doing. Now, you need a long-term vision. You need to be going somewhere. That's what that long-term vision and strategy is about. When you're doing it, you need to do what you're doing. For example, I'll tell a parable about this in one of my books, the parable of the golfer and the beer cans. So the golfer gets up to hit the shot. He's playing for the club championship. 4 people in front of him drinking beer, very annoying, but he works through it, hits it, looks like a perfect shot. It somehow bounces off in the rough. What happened? There's a beer can. It hit a beer can. He's angry, these idiots. What does a golfer need to do? Breathe. Forget about the club championship. Don't think about winning. Don't think about the beer can. What is your strategy? Hit the shot in front of you. If you're focused on winning, you're not focused on hitting the shot in front of you. If you're focused on the shot you hit before, you're not focused on hitting the shot in front of you. Hit the shot in front of you. Now, I think this is very important advice, not only from a business perspective. To be honest, some large corporation makes an extra $1 billion or so. I don't think as an old man, I'm going to look back and say, whoop-de-doo. I'm a much simpler old man. I just want people to have a better life. I think this is a very human application. Just do what you're doing. Have a vision for the future, but do what you're doing in the moment. Be where you are. Don't just get lost in this stuff. Just be where you are as a human being. And also, and this is very counterintuitive, never fixate on results. Never fixate on results for two reasons. One, you cannot control all the variables associated with the results. And two, let's say you achieve the results as a human being. How much long-term happiness is that going to bring you? A minute, a day, a week? Not much. One of my good coaching clients is Albert Bourla. Albert's CEO of Pfizer. A few years ago, I called Albert. Albert, how's it going? Oh, really came over that vaccine. Good job, Albert. Hey, might have saved my life there. Fantastic. Stock price high, blah, blah, blah. He didn't say the CEO of the year. I said, Albert, what's your problem? He said, I have a huge problem. Next year. If Albert Bourla's value in life is he has to do better than that year, he will never find happiness or peace. He will never do better. We don't want him to do better than that year. Hey, if achievement would make you happy, Michael Phelps would be the happiest Olympian that ever lived. He won 25 gold medals. What do you think about doing after winning number 25? Killing himself. Happiness and achievement are independent variables. A very important point. 3 things you need to have a great life. 1, you need a higher aspiration. Why am I doing this? Which is the vision, the purpose on the corporate sense, and a human sense. Who am I as a human? Why am I? You work all the time. Why are you working so hard? Number 2, you need to have achievement connected to that vision. So you need to achieve goals that are connected to your vision. And number 3, you need to enjoy the process of life. You don't want to get so wrapped up on this treadmill. You wake up one day and you didn't have a good time. So I know one thing more than both of you. I'm a lot older. We're all going to be equally dead here. Last time I checked, my new research has kind of concluded we're all going to be equally dead. Let's have some fun here. Life is short.
I love that so much. Thank you.
I really, just listening to you on that, Marshall, it's why I'm thankful to have been both part of the 100 coaches, but equally to be considered a 6-level leader. Because as you highlighted, we need to role model this behavior.
That's
My
right.
greatest worry with the advance of AI is that people are thinking, I've got to get more efficient. I've got to get faster. I've got to get better. It's accelerated competition. And for leadership to understand, you've got to role model the behavior that you seek of others. Otherwise, they don't recognize how valuable and important that is to their growth and to their life moving forward. So love what you just said. For me, it's so important. And MarshallBot will continue to also keep your legacy going. But for me, it's an opportunity to role model the behavior that we expect of others in order for that to normalize and become the way leaders lead.
Absolutely. And I just think that's a brilliant point to finish on, actually, Jen, after Marshall's inspirational speech. Inspiration grounded in just complete truth. And thank you both so much for coming on and sharing. And yeah, I'm really excited about this episode. I feel quite affected by it in a very good way. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. It was a great discussion. Always fun to listen to Marshall. I learned more from both you and MarshallBot.
Yeah. Au revoir, MarshallBot.
Hey, I want everybody go to marshallgoldsmith.ai. It's already been asked 114,000 questions, and we're just getting started.
Now, did MarshallBot also celebrate a birthday? Does MarshallBot celebrate birthdays as well?
It was 76.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to Marshall and MarshallBot.
Thank you so much.
Although actually, I think MarshallBot's probably got a new timeline.
Yeah, I think he's going to be around for a long time. All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for having us. It was a great, great conversation.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.